Hi everyone. I'm here to share how race has impacted my life. I really had to think back to childhood for this, which was interesting thinking about how much race didn't impact my life actually, is what struck me. But I do remember some distinct experiences that I think gave me an initial introduction to race and what it meant. Um, my first memory is on the playground in elementary school. I grew up in a majority white, middle class university town, very few people of color. So I must have been in like second, third grade, but I remember we had an Asian family move in, and there was a little boy, not in my class, but another class who was Chinese and didn't speak any English. And during recess one day, a group of girls had surrounded him um, and were teasing him, making fun of him. Um, and so my reaction was to get in the middle of them and tell them to stop. And they didn't, and I got into a fight and actually got in trouble. But I remember that distinctly because I remember even at that time just no, I don't know, just knowing that it wasn't right and wanting to stop them from um, targeting him. Um, Thinking about my family, I don't really feel like we talked about race a lot, actually, at all. It really didn't come up in our community as an issue. I know that I didn't think about it a lot. I mean, I had lots of friends that were African American, and that seemed very fine and normal, but I don't remember thinking about their life being any different than mine. Um, and I figured I was growing up in a pretty progressive place. Connecticut is pretty liberal, and like I said, I was in a pretty educated university town. My parents both have, advanced degrees. Um, but I do remember distinctly, like in the question that asks, when did you learn about the larger social beliefs? I remember when I had my children, and I didn't really get far out of Connecticut until after my children were older, when I went internet to teach internationally, and traveled quite a bit. But at the time, I had not really left Connecticut much. So I took her to camp one day. She was maybe 5 or 6, and she was sitting down with a little boy and a little girl. The girl was African American, and they were playing. And I sat down with them, and the boy said to my daughter, "You shouldn't play with her." And I said, "Well, why not? She's really nice." And he said, "Well, no, she's black, and you shouldn't play with black kids," my dad said. And I just remember being totally shocked because I just assumed I was living in a place where there wasn't racism. Um, and I was pretty old. I was 23, maybe. And I just really hadn't ever been exposed to that mindset at all. So I remember being shocked by it, and having to explain to my daughter, what he meant and why he said it and things like that. Um, Over time, I definitely have learned a lot about race and ethnicity. Uh, being part of Teach for America originally, and teaching in the inner city in New Haven, and really learning a lot about achievement gap and things like that. I just became much more aware of the differences between my experience and the experiences of people in different areas. Uh, I also taught overseas in Tanzania, which added a whole extra layer about race. And I've also had some experiences at my current school where race has certainly been an issue, and we've had to deal with some conflicts and some problems. And some things have happened that really taught me that I don't know much and I need to learn a lot more. So, what I believe now is I believe there's sort of a systemic structural problem with racism. Um, I know that I'm not as savvy as I thought I was about it. I've made a couple missteps in the last few years with students, or where I've not meant to do something wrong, but I have said something wrong, or so I think where I am right now is recognizing that I have great intentions and I want to know more, but I need to really just listen and learn more about the experiences of others instead of assuming that I can just fix it. Okay, I look forward to listening to all your posts. Thanks.